So all there is what's happening. And what's happening is nothing experiencing itself as everything. Not a thing experiencing itself as all things. So some people say that nothing is the source, but everything is nothing, so everything is also the source. You can't find one without the other. It's like a circle. We want in our minds to be able to say nothing is the source and that be the end of it, and we know where we stand, but it's not like that. If everything is nothing, then everything's as much the source as nothing. So we have nothing. So there is nothing. And then in order to experience itself, it needs to create consciousness. So you could say that's the next thing. And then when everything manifests, so when it looks through the body and everything manifests, there's also a sense of being. So there is the consciousness, and then there is a sense of being. So when it needs consciousness, and then when it looks through the body, there is a sense of being, a sense of presence that also is. And then it creates everything else. You could say, I like to say that the presence, the being is everything, and that the consciousness is nothing. But ultimately that's just me trying to find words for it, and that's not the truth either. This is nothing experiencing itself, and it uses consciousness. It creates consciousness in order to look at itself. Now, and so consciousness is part of this world. Consciousness isn't separate from these things, from things. You could say all things are conscious, but the actual source is nothing. Sometimes I say the source is consciousness, but just for the simplicity of speaking, it doesn't really matter. But the consciousness and the presence are the closest. No, it's not the closest. It's not even that. This is so hard to put into words. It's just that there is empty looking here. That the looking, the experiencing of itself is empty and full simultaneously. And it's just easy to say, and it kind of makes sense in some bizarre way, that the consciousness is nothing and the presence is the everything. But in a way you can't separate that out like that, because the everything is also the nothing. So the consciousness is also the everything, and the everything is also the nothing. It's like a circle, never ending. But right now, there is nothing looking at itself, not a thing looking at itself, experiencing itself. And this is the freedom, the movement, the energetic movement back to that, and the energetic expansion into that. Because what happens is this separate self is like a vessel inside the body. It makes it feel like there is somebody in there, and this separate self sucks everything in. It claims being the body, it claims being a name, it claims being a form, it claims being a feeling, it claims being an event, an identity, and it sucks it in, and it makes it feel like there is something in this vessel separate from everything else having an experience. So it makes it feel like there is a back on experiencing. So there is something in here experiencing itself. Not something in here. There's something in here experiencing the world, and it's separate. There is a divide. But this is a trickery. This is lots of things made to make it feel like somebody's having an experience. Really, there is nobody having an experience. There is nothing having an experience. Not a thing having an experience. So one way you could talk about it, and many teachers talk about it, and it really doesn't matter. getting the right words, because it's like poetry. You can't put this into the correct words. So some people say, like, consciousness is experiencing that person, like there's something experiencing that person. That person isn't conscious, that person is being experienced. And through that it begins to be seen that there is something so much more vaster and mysterious going on here, that there is not a back on experiencing, that the experiencer is everything and nothing. But this becomes an energetic movement, seeing that everything is looking at itself. Everything is looking at itself. And there's no center experiencing itself. There's nothing here. So when we point the finger at this, there's nothing looking at the finger, but yet the finger is being perceived. But it's like, so you could say that like there is a perception of it, but there's nothing perceiving. And so I'm going to swap words a lot, and sometimes I'm going to say there is only consciousness, but the thing is about consciousness is that consciousness is nothing. Consciousness is invisible. What is consciousness? This perception, it's that there is nothing perceiving. So yes, there is perception, but that perception is nothing, not a thing. Like, where can you find perception? There is simply everything being experienced by nothing. Or everything experiencing itself. I know this sounds so complicated. It is so beautiful. But what's the actual experience? What is perceiving now? It's a formation that's kind of clumped together, saying, I'm experiencing me, of course it's me having an experience. But what is you? Who is this you? Who is this you that's claiming to be inside a body? So we think, I came into this room and I sat down. But who came into this room and sat down? That person that you imagine that came into this room and sat down isn't the experiencer. That's an image and a feeling appearing now that's being experienced. So who is the actual experiencer right here, right now? Who's experiencing this? It's so beautiful.